And the scene is set right outside of St. Christina's church. A car rolls into the parking lot nearby, and Nathaniel Blake steps out and hits the lock button on his keys. He slowly approaches the church. It is, of course, nighttime, or else he wouldn't be walking about right now. He comes to the church, though, much like all who come to places of worship, with a very direct purpose. And as he walks into the doors and begins talking with one of the individuals that he knows is a retainer of the Malkavian Primogen, of course, utilizing the discretion that both his sire and the Camarilla in general had instilled in him. He learns, much to his displeasure, that she is indisposed of at the moment. This frustrates him greatly, for he has been very troubled these past few nights with the visions that the Men's Network has brought forward. Upon the suggestion of both his sire and the kindred known as Gideon, he had hoped to seek out the Malkavian Primogen and hopefully get some clarity into the visions that he and, from what he's come to understand, all Malkavians in New Sarum have been visited with. But it seems that will not be the case tonight. So instead, he enters the church proper and sits down in one of the pews and then just rests his head in his hands and tries to think about what he's going to do next. He could wait another night. There's always that option, but he's very much against wasting time. If there's something that he can be done to help the situation, then it's in his nature to do so. And since there isn't, he's left wanting. And it's at this point a stranger enters from a side door.
Axel ends up coming from a side room. Looking in, he enjoys the electric candles that illuminate the scene. It takes a moment to kind of just get a hold of himself. There's clearly something on his mind. His form is a bit disheveled, his clothes not tucked in, his tie is hanging crooked and loose, top button undone. He just doesn't look like he's well put together right now. He takes a moment. It's a very irregular walk as he ends up going towards the pews, sitting actually in the front. He starts with his hands together and starts to tap the underside of his palm as he looks up at the figure in front of him, at the podium, at the lights. Every once in a while, his head just tilts to the side like he's trying to shake something off, something lingering. On occasion, he looks about at the retainers walking by. They seem to want to leave him be just for this moment.
Nathaniel does notice this, and partially his training, partially the lessons his sire instilled upon him kick in, for it is his occupation to observe, after all. And so he watches this new individual in his strange habits as he looks around. He tries to do so subtly, of course, trying to take in if he might have recognized him around the city before. He certainly hasn't seen him in the Primogen's domain yet, but he has only been here a year. And there's only so many hours in a night. He tries to look harder, tries to see the pallor of this individual's skin, see if he tries to imitate breathing with an effort. Could you roll me? Let's see here. This would be perception plus alertness, I believe. So that would be 6. Does your character have the Blush of Health right now?
No, he does not.
Then we'll... what would you say what the difficulty would be?
I would say, especially here, it would almost be just flat out obvious. So I'd say 6+. There's no real reason. In fact, I'd make it lower, truthfully, just because of the nature of the location. But since 6 is your average, we'll stick with 6.
All right.
In which case, that's 2 successes.
All right. He's able to just, I guess, barely make out the effort that Axel is trying to make, trying to give the appearance that he is still alive. Nathaniel himself is still getting used to that. And so he makes a mental note that this man is certainly kindred. The next...
Axel. Oh.
No, please continue.
Axel, he's you notice that it's weird. He keeps tapping different bits of his body, but the pattern continues to repeat. You notice that while he doesn't need to breathe, he's actually forcing himself to. He's forcing a steady bit of breathing, but on occasion it breaks, and he looks over his shoulder. He looks down, he looks up, a little bit erratic, and for a moment he turns to you. He looks directly at you, but it's not as though he notices you. It's almost like he looks through you, past you. He shakes his head for a moment and then continues to sit at his pew, tapping the bottom palm of his hand, focusing on breathing, focusing on control.
Unfortunately for Nathaniel, he is not yet wise enough in the world, especially with those of his clan, to possibly see the signs. So, rather than possibly taking heed like he might, the next thing he decides upon is that this is most certainly someone new, and his master would very much want to know about any new arrivals into the city. That is his job, after all. He is the eyes of Tom Finch. And so he will get up and approach this individual and sit down not next to him, but in the adjacent pew. And then just sort of look at him and say, "Good evening." And that sort of startles him as well. Sorry.
No.
Terribly sorry about that.
You notice Axel's eyes. He doesn't seem to engage you right away. He looks at the other people, though they're few in number. And it takes a long while. Easily 30, 40 seconds pass. And he's staring at them intently. And then after a moment, and actually, if you want, you can if you're paying attention to the retainers, you can end up making a quick roll just to end up seeing if you see what he sees.
All right, then. In that case, would this be perception alertness as well, or perception awareness?
No, this would be just
alertness.
Yeah. Okay, you're right on the ball here. What you notice is that
I almost forgot.
Axel
Since your boss specs 1, does that mean the difficulty goes down by 1 as well? Wait, I'm not technically
No,
using aspects, so never mind. Never
no. But either way, it wouldn't change much. What you notice, it's actually quite clear. It's not until their eyes actually drift from Axel's behavior to you sitting by the pew does he actually stop and turn to you.
mind.
And he looks and says, I'm sorry. It's been a kind of a long night. Sorry, pardon. Where's my manners? Where's my manners? Um, name's Axel. He extends his hand. And there's a very rough hand, strong, good arm behind it.
Nathaniel certainly won't be rude. He will just sort of take it. Um, he's beginning to possibly see the error of his ways coming up to you as he just says, Nathaniel, nice to meet you.
Nathaniel. Oh, um, sorry. You startled me. I was kind of I was away for a moment. I just needed kind of a chance to think. Needed a minute. I'm sorry if I was distracting you from prayer, I would guess. Seems to be everybody else's excuse.
Actually, I came here on business, but it seems there'll be none of that tonight. It's just,
Business.
yeah, I haven't seen you around here before. Don't worry though. This is a sanctuary after all. You are among company.
Well, that's what they say anyway. So he looks you up and down, and he'll make a perception roll himself. Are you using Blush of Health?
Um, no, he would not. He only intended to meet up with the people, or specifically the Primogen, so he did not bother to spend the extra blood.
Okay. Axel may not have been sure. There was that niggling doubt in his head until he grasped your hand. That lack of warmth being very much trademark giveaway. That tangible, touchable moment. He kind of smiles loosely. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I got distracted. You said you were here to talk to somebody.
Yes, but they are indisposed of at the moment. Nothing to worry about.
Well, I
We
hope it's
all have
nothing
our
serious.
mm, possibly,
Oh,
maybe, maybe not. That is, I suppose, why we all need counsel after all, is to get answers to things we don't know about.
yeah, yeah. I'd imagine. Sometimes it's just the peace and quiet. Sometimes it's that moment you need to take to get away from yourself. I know that quite a few people benefit from those moments. Might actually explain why it is that your business it couldn't be found here. Maybe they're just trying to get away.
Hmm,
What do you think?
maybe. As you'll think about it for a minute, partially trying to gauge exactly what's up with you, but he he does think about what you said for a moment, and he says maybe everyone needs a break every once in a while.
Or maybe
But
it
still,
happens once
it's
too often. Who knows? Who knows? Oh, then then we're going to have to take the time to well, readjust the schedule. After all, it takes time to end up getting things to end up working, right? Sometimes you just can't quite do it with the first swing of the sledgehammer. But who am I to talk? Who am I to talk, really?
Hmm. I'm certain I haven't seen you around before. Have you been in New Salem long, Mr. Axel?
Mr. Linwood.
Linwood.
Axel's the first to hit.
Or,
No, 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 no. Of course, I usually just introduce on a first name basis. It's a lot more casual, a lot more relaxing. People typically feel like there's formality that needs to be followed when you end up referring to Mr., Mrs., Miss, or what other titles that you end up giving. I'm not like that. I'm all respect where it's due, don't get me wrong, but you gotta end up taking that time to get to know people. And once you do, most problems don't even show up anymore.
wise words, Mr. Linwood.
I'm sorry. um, I appreciate it. Took a lot of thinking. I had a lot of time, you see, to think. And yeah,
Rough night.
so you could call it so. I ended up actually having a wonderful walk across the city, combination of walking and public transit, actually. Buses get so loud on occasion. You know, you would have thought that uh, engines would have been quieter these days, but no, 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 no. They start roaring in your ear, and sometimes you can hear them for miles before, even after they leave. Yeah.
What do you mean, man? As actually, he does get a bit nostalgic thinking back to when he had to take the buses when he was going to college. But that quickly fades as he focuses on you again.
I would like to end up making a point of what would I need to roll for empathy to see if I can really catch that, or was it completely written over your face before it subsided, that moment of nostalgia?
It would have been so sudden that he wouldn't have really had that much experience hiding it. I mean, he's not that. He's only a year old himself. He's not that apt at playing the game yet.
Okay. So what would you figure I would need to roll? Empathy plus
We'll just give it to you. It
just
would
give
be a
it?
good moment. Yeah.
All right. Axel sees that moment and as soon as it goes, no, 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 no. Don't let it go. Take those moments. It was a moment of joy. It was a moment of nostalgia. It was good times. I don't know what it was in your head, but I saw it. I saw that moment where things just, you were there. And you almost cracked a smile. That was the first time I've seen you do that since you sat down, really. Hang
Well,
on
I've
to
only
that.
been down here like a couple minutes.
Fair enough, fair enough. But you want to know what? It still put you in a better spot than you have been since you sat down beside me, right? And those moments are hard to hang on to. They make you know that things will be all right in the end. That's what I have to tell myself on occasion, but it almost always turns out to be true in the end. Sorry, Nathaniel. I wish you would have ended up catching me at a better night. I'm usually far more pleasant company in that regard. But yourself, you've been kind enough to sit by a man with his troubles, and at the very least, you provided distraction. You provided a moment where you've let me think outside the box and back in again. I'm very much appreciative of that.
Well, it was a pleasure. It is, I suppose, rare myself to converse with people of the same religion, if you know what I mean.
You notice that Axel actually is taking the time while you speak to kind of redo his buttons. He's fixing himself. Yeah, I think I understand. I think I understand a little bit better than you might believe. So, are you disappointed? Are you disappointed that uh, you didn't manage to make things work out with the meeting that you intended tonight? Who was it with, if you don't mind me asking?
I wanted to meet with the caretaker of this church.
Heart grows fonder, my friend. The heart grows fonder.
Hmm.
What's kind of it making me wonder about that is just, well, you say it yourself. You haven't seen me around. Let's just end up saying that slight leave of absence was somewhat necessary. I don't want to end up causing more confusion in that regard, though. But you know me now, and I know you now, friend. And I appreciate that. So, as far as the caretaker, I was actually kind of hoping I'd run into her myself.
Hmm.
You know, there's there's something to be said about getting in touch with family. I was hoping I'd get the opportunity, but maybe it's just too soon. Maybe I gotta learn to crawl before I start walking around again.
At the mention of that, it sort of clicks into place as he just sort of goes, I see.
Hmm.
My
So,
dear
yeah, blind
Axel
man.
Linwood, I believe we might be distant relatives.
Hmm. Maybe, maybe. I guess you can understand my caution at jumping for joy at that statement. It actually excites me greatly. Don't misconstrue it. I am overwhelmed with a bit of joy and of knowing that there's somebody else out there who might have a perspective that I can relate to. But at the end of the day, well, the big guy always ended up telling me, keep your guard up. You'll know friends when you hear I tell you who they are. So until that day, don't take it personal. It's not personal. But we'll wait till more formal introductions to really dig into that little mystery.
As Nathaniel will look a little bit confused and just a tad bit offended, as he will say, you give me your name, you give me your philosophy, you call me friend, and you tell me about your mutual understanding of the caretaker of this place. And then you would say that I do not know enough about you to delve into family matters?
No, no, not at all, Fred. Not at all. What it means is that, well, there's a certain degree of respect you got to give to those who are more experienced, been there around the block more than a few times, if you catch my meaning. And what that means is that until I end up getting the full go ahead, there's a certain amount of respect towards the old man's wishes that I got to end up sticking to.
Ah, now you're speaking my language. Fair enough.
Trust me, if I had it could and it wouldn't bite me in the ass, I'd be an open book to you. But as it stands, you were kind enough to give me the vagaries of your situation. I figure at least a little bit of honesty and reciprocation would be appreciated. Don't be offended. I'm certainly not. I actually I wanted to thank you for that moment. Like I said, hang on to it. Those moments of joy and remembering, they tend to slip away a little bit more than you want, and it's so hard to get those back. It's really, really hard.
You are a really strange man, Mr. Linwood. But if my hunch is correct, that is just the burden we all have to bear. As now Nathaniel will get up from the pew, and he will turn to you, just sort of bow his head and say, "The hour is getting late, though, and it is time that I head back to my job.
If I
I
see
do
her,
hope that we'll meet again."
if I see her again, I'll let her know you dropped by. It's the least I can do for the distraction. Thank you,
Thanks.
and good evening.
The distraction was mutual, as he'll smile. And then he'll turn to leave, but then just pause for a moment, and then just sort of slowly turn on his heels back to you as though he had forgot something. One last thing. If you will indulge one last little curiosity of mine.
Well, why not? You want to know what? It's sure.
Can you eat food?
Um, I'd have to end up giving that as a solid no.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's tell you what though, end up going for a Long Island iced tea if I could end up doing so, but I'll tell you right now, those are some of the memories I'm not so sure if I should be hanging on to. Still, we do what we can.
Of course. It's just been a strange week for me. Out of the 5 people new I've met in total, 2 of them could eat food. I never knew that such a thing was possible before now.
Well, you were the first one to inform me that it is. So you noticed that Axel actually looks around and he gestures to one of the retainers and he whispers something pointing to you. The retainer gives a nod, and then Axel has this look of confusion on his face. He just something. He's bewildered more than anything. So you're telling me that there's actually kindred who can ingest actual food? Like you can actually put a raspberry cake in front of them and they can go through the whole thing and it not backfire horribly?
I've seen it with my own eyes. Unless they were masters of deception and promptly ralphed it all back up several hours after our meeting, which would be a feat unto itself. They appeared to have no hesitation and a profound enjoyment with the lost art, as it were. So
There's
unless they knew
actually
something we didn't, who's to say that they
that
couldn't?
that brings a lot of confusion. I will be completely honest with you. That has me bewildered. But that's another time to ruminate. I'll keep that in mind. What did you say your full name was again?
Nathaniel Blake.
Well, Mr. Blake, take care of yourself, and do end up sharing me these little oddities. I need some help really understanding the intricacies of, well, what would he have called it? Our condition.
Oh, that is a popular term. I'll tell you what, think of it as payment for sharing with me your philosophy. And with that, Nathaniel Blake will bow again, then proceed to head out the church, at least happy that he was able to learn something new. It's very good to be productive after all. And as I will be very interested to hear about the new arrival. And with that, Axel Linwood would see the doors open and close, and he can continue on with his night as Nathaniel Blake heads back out to his car, gets inside, and drives off to continue his night shift.